Okay, if it goes off, we'll just have to deal with it. Anyway, so I like to start off with the basics. I like to have us all find out where we are placed in this state. So we have two numbers with the Secretary of State. So I tell everybody, remember this, govotecolorado.com. So when somebody doesn't know what their precinct number is, or their state house, or their Senate number, Go Vote Colorado will tell you. So if you go to that, we have two numbers. We have our voter ID number that the Secretary of State and the county clerks use when we place our ballots into the ballot box. But we also have a precinct number. And the precinct number is a 10-digit, is always a 10-digit number. So in that number, those numbers mean something. So the first number is your congressional district. That'll be 1 through 8 here in Colorado. We have 8 congressional districts. The second and the third are your state Senate numbers. The fourth and the fifth is your state house. The sixth and the seventh is always your county number. Every county is different. Jefferson County is number 30. You probably should find out what your number is and what county you're in. And then the precinct ID number, your P, is the last 3 numbers. And so that is where you are placed in terms of here in the state. And if you look in the redistricting maps, it will show you all of these numbers of every, congressional district, Senate district, House district, and precinct going down to that level. Does that make sense for everybody? Mm-hmm. So I say homework when you get home, or you can do it on your phone right now, and you put up www.govotecolorado.com. And I recommend you do that before you go to caucus, especially if you don't know your House district number or your precinct number. Those 2 numbers are very important for caucus. Okay.
Or they could go to caucus.collo.org.
Yeah, there's a couple of them out there. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so what is caucus? So the official definition from the Colorado State, or the Colorado Secretary of State's office, is precinct caucuses are meetings of registered electors within a precinct who are members of a particular major party. And we have 2 major parties here, right? We have the Republicans and we have the Democrats. What are some of the minority parties that we have here?
Libertarian.
Libertarian.
Green.
Constitution. So there's a few of them. I think there's about 10 out there that are considered libertarian or minority parties. The Libertarian Party is actually at about 8% of the voter base here in Colorado. So if they get to another 2% of registered voters, they're actually going to be considered a majority or major party here. So they would have to go through this process as well. Maybe that's why they don't want to increase their voter registration much, because it's a big process for both the Democrats and the Republicans to do this. And of course, the unaffiliated and independents, they're currently at about 48% of the state registered voters right now. So it's important that we always include them in things when it comes down to elections. So what is the difference between a caucus and a primary? Caucus meetings are arranged by either the state or political party to take place at a certain place or time. Caucuses are unique in that they allow participants to openly show support for their candidates. Now here in Colorado, our caucus is different than, say, the Iowa caucus. And a lot of people are confused with that because they just have the Iowa caucus. But that is for what? The presidential election, right? So we don't have a caucus like Iowa. We have a caucus where we find our grassroots precinct chairs and our delegates to our assemblies instead of doing that. Back in the day, we used to do straw polls for the presidential elections, but since we changed to having a presidential primary, those straw polls have gone away, which is one reason why a lot of people stopped going to caucus, to be honest. But, and then of course, every 4 years, we have 2 primaries. We have the presidential primary, which all of you should have been receiving your ballots. I got mine today, so they're due on March 5th. And then we have the general primary, which will be the end of June.
Is Trump on the ballot?
Trump is on the ballot, I saw him.
That's whether or not they're gonna count it.
Will she count them? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the
Well,
question.
she legally still has to count them in terms of all of that. We'll see what happens with that. But there are actually 7 candidates on the presidential primary. The only 2 that are still in the race are Nikki Haley and Trump. So don't vote for
Nikki.
Vickett and all those other ones, because it just will cancel your vote out. Okay, so why do we caucus? Here's the why. We caucus, the primary caucuses are to elect precinct committee persons, we call them PCPs, delegates and alternate delegates to be their representatives to the assemblies, and talk to our neighbors about party resolutions to submit to the county. So that's the real purpose of them. And then this is a list here, you can all just look at it. Every county is a little bit different when it comes to what a PCP is and their requirements or their duties. But it's pretty basic. It's, there's 2 precincts, 2 PCPs per precinct. And so they work together, they talk to their neighbors, they work the neighborhood, they help the candidates that are in that area, whether it be a House seat, a Senate seat, and/or county seats, or even a national seat. And they just are the kind of the liaison between the neighborhood and the party itself. And they can host meet and greets, you know, have picnics, summer picnics, do whatever. But they're kind of that grassroots connection to the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. And so that's just kind of a list of some of them there. They are also part of what we call the executive or the central committee for the county. So every county has a central committee, and they would be a voting delegate for that. But we won't go into that detail. That goes into more stuff. So who can vote in caucus? To be eligible to vote in the political party precinct caucus, a voter must be a resident of the precinct for at least 22 days, registered to vote no later than 22 days before the caucus, and affiliated with the party holding the caucus for at least 22 days before the caucus. So a few years ago, legislation went through. We used to have it at 30 days, but they switched it down to 22 days. So actually tomorrow is the deadline. If you have a friend who is an unaffiliated voter and wants to participate in caucus, they need to change their registration by tomorrow to do that. Otherwise, they can go, they can be a visitor, but they can't participate and vote at caucus. And then on the next page there, it just talks about the legislation that happened in 2018. In terms of that, there's some general questions that people ask. So if I participate, if I'm 18 or became a citizen less than 22 days before my party caucus, can I still participate? And the answer is yes, they can. As long as they will turn 18 less than 22 days before their party caucus. They also can, if they're 17 years of age, and on the date of the caucus, who will be 18 by the next general election, they can also vote at caucus. So that's the exception for the 17-year-olds. If they're going to be able to vote by the election in November, they can participate in caucus. And if they moved within that 22 days, they have to go to their old location of their old address and not the new address. That 22 days is, you're going to remember that number. And then, of course, unaffiliated voters cannot vote, but they can still be there as a guest. And Democrats can come and be there as a guest as well. So you may have the opposing team come and visit you. So the question is, where is my caucus? The caucuses are arranged by the local GOP county offices, and they're held in a variety of locations across Colorado and open to the public. So what I do know, Arapahoe, Douglas, Denver, and Jeffco counties will be on March 7th that evening. And Adams County is going to do theirs on Saturday, the 9th. If you have any questions on where to go to caucus, it's best to go to your local Republican GOP website, and we all have it up there. I listed 4 of them. I did Arapahoe, and then Denver, and we got Roger back here. He's the chair of Denver. So if you're in Denver and you have questions, ask him. Douglas County, and then of course Jefferson County. I forgot Adams, but just trying to include everybody that usually comes to this meeting. Does that make sense so far to everybody? Yeah? Okay. And then I always like to have you kind of, if you've not been to a caucus, kind of know what to expect. Some people kind of like, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't go. I don't know what's going to go on. And no, no, no. Encourage your neighbors to go. Please, please, please. So ahead of time, that's why I say look up your voter ID number with the Secretary of State, because you need to have your voter ID number, your precinct number, sorry, and then an ID as well. To be a delegate at the assemblies, it does cost money. It costs the counties and the state to put on these big assemblies, and so we call them badge fees. So be expecting a cost of that if you're wanting to be a delegate, and tell people about this too. The badge fees will vary between $25 to $40. Jeffco is $40 this year for a delegate. And then congressional will be lower. I don't know what the ones, you're in 4 here, there's 6 around here, and then we got 7 too. So I know 7 Congressional District 7's badge fee will be $10. And I'm sure 6 and 4 will be about the same, because they're all going to be held down at the Pueblo Fairgrounds as well.
I saw 15 for Arapahoe, but I don't know if that's holding.
15 for Arapahoe?
That's what I saw.
For your badge fees for Arapahoe? For the
yeah.
assembly?
I think so.
That's cheap.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
not
It's
for the
20
county
for
assembly?
Douglas
Yeah, the
also.
county
I
assembly.
think that's pretty cheap. I think state is 60 or 65.
It's 50.
Is it 50?
Yeah.
It
Well, I
is
got old
20 for
numbers.
Douglas.
Yeah, it's, you got your county, you got your congressional, and then you have your state. And the state is on the 6th of April, down at the State Fairgrounds in Pueblo. And the badge fees are $50 for a delegate and $40 for an alternate.
Did you mention that your sheet says April 7th? Did you notice that?
Oh, instead of April 6th.
It says Saturday, but it says April 7th. So you just want to fix that before you
Oh,
send
for
it
my
down.
typo?
Yeah,
Thank you, Randy.
you're welcome. I had to look at the calendar to make sure, because they said the 6th.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
I just don't pay attention sometimes when I, and then I just put on the next sheet in terms of what to expect. It's kind of a typical meeting that we do here as Republicans. But you'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, you'll have the roll call, reading of the rules, and then you have to vote in a secretary and a chairman at your meeting, because these are privately kind of done. Jeffco is going to be different this year. We're actually going to do caucus much different than most counties do. In most counties, you actually will go into a classroom or smaller little rooms and kind of stick within your little precinct areas. Jeffco is going to meet in a gymnasium or a cafeteria, and we're all going to caucus together. I made that decision this year because that's what the Democrats do, actually. They go into the gym, they bring coffee and donuts and have loud music going on and make it a big party. And so I said, we're going to do this different in Jeffco, and I know that the other counties do things a little bit differently, but we'll see what happens with that.
You're
And I
not
may share
alone,
that.
Denver's doing the same thing.
You are?
Yeah, we're all in one room.
Oh, that's fabulous, Roger. Good. So Roger in Denver County is doing it too. And then we go into things like general information. If there's candidates there, they can, speak for a couple of minutes. And then we'll go into the nominations of voting for the delegates and the alternates for the 3 assemblies. And then we'll go in and vote for our 2 PCPs that we want to represent us at that precinct level. And then at the very end, they usually do resolutions. So resolutions are really important, actually. It's what you stand for, what you feel that your neighborhood, your county stands for. So everybody will submit those to the county. The county will review them, And then they will have a resolutions committee that actually submits that to the county assembly for a vote with those delegates within the county assembly. And then the counties actually take it to the state, and then the state will review them, and we will vote at the state level, at the state assembly resolutions for that. So, and then the state takes it to the national level, and that's where your little tiny little idea of a resolution that you think is important could actually make it to the national level, if that makes any sense. So it's important to be part of the resolutions. And bring one with you. If you have a certain idea that you want to talk about with and propose a resolution, bring it with you ahead of time. And then there's just the final paperwork to fill out, and you pay your dues and off you go. So it's usually about a 2-hour meeting, maybe less, hopefully. And go from there. So I did list the 3 assemblies here. So we've got the county assembly. At the county assembly, that's when you vote for any candidates that are going to be on a county level. That's also where you break down into your House districts and your Senate district assemblies, usually in the afternoon. And that's where you will vote on those candidates running for those districts as well. Those candidates have to have at least a 30% vote in order to be placed on the ballot as being a recommended they're endorsed by the Republican Party to be on the ballot. This is the way that is the cheapest way. It's free for the most part, and the grassroots way to get on. As she indicated, her opponent over there is going to petition on. So everybody does have the ability to petition on a ballot, but that takes this grassroots effort of going through the assembly
And the consultants
process.
charge $20 a signature.
Well, that, if they have the money. I've never had that kind of money to pay somebody to go walk around and get signatures for me. But, yeah, and it's just not talking to your constituents from the very beginning, right? So, but it is possible, it is a law that we have to put in place. So after the assembly, they can petition on for about another 15 days, I believe, after the assembly to be on the ballot. But when you go through the assembly process and you are voted in, then you are top line, no matter what. So when you're looking at that, sometimes it's important to be on the top line of a ballot, right? Because people sometimes just check, check, check. So that's another plus to going through the assembly process. And then we've got the district, the congressional assemblies. So at that point, they vote for whoever's running for Congress. That's every 2 years. They have anybody who's running for the State Board of Education, that goes through congressional districts. And then CU Region also goes through congressional districts. Yes.
KDD.
Can I ask one question? I'm sorry to back up. If you petition on, you get so many signatures on a petition, but then don't you have to get 10% of the vote at the assembly
Yes.
or something?
Well,
Is that?
it's not necessary, no.
No? It's
No,
not?
but you can
Can
get
you,
to, if
can
you
you
get.
repeat the question and explain it to
Sure.
everybody?
So her question was, is if you petition on, do you still have to go through the assembly process? And if you did, is it 10%? So there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can petition on without going through the assembly process at all. Or if you choose to go through the assembly process and you get 15% of the vote, you can still petition on that way as well. And it's still, some people like to do that to see where they stand with the grassroots effort. So we had that happen in the governor's race, wasn't it? Yeah. I think that happened last year. I have to think about that.
A lot of
But
the
it does happen once in a while.
We have a lot of the CD4 candidates are doing both. It's done.
Yeah, so, and so you're gonna have, your CD4 is gonna be a primary, no matter what. And then we got the state assembly. So this year we would be electing any state offices, which I don't think we have any. We don't have U.S. Senator this year either.
I think State Board of Education.
Yeah, so we have the RNC chairman and chairwoman. Committee man. I better change that.
Yep.
And the National Convention delegates and the
State Board of Education.
Yeah, the State Board of
At large,
Education.
I think.
And that's an at-large position, and the CU Regent also is an at-large position. The reason why we have at-large is because according to state statute, you cannot have an even number of people on a board, so we have to have a member at large for both of those to make it an odd number on the board. That's how Polis got onto the State Board of Education years ago. And then this is just for reference in terms of that. This is just a list of offices that you can hold throughout your county and district levels and state levels. And a lot of people don't realize there's an awful lot of positions out there and offices that you can hold. And so you can review that and see how you can get more involved if you have the time and commitment to do that. And then on the back page is my name and my phone number and my email. And anybody is welcome to call me or email me at any time. Yes?
There's one more assembly. There's assemblies for the district attorneys, for the judicial.
Judicial.
Yeah. There are-
Yes, oh, yeah, I forgot the JD ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Did
guys are
everybody
helping me
hear
with
the
my.
question and the comment? Could you repeat it, please?
So his question was, or his comment was, is that there's assemblies for the judicial districts. And so I left that out, but there's also those assemblies that you have to go through.
And those are all opportunities to become state delegates, right? I mean, you can get, if you're on one of those, you can be delegates to the state assembly, yeah.
And so it's a little different this year for most of these counties because we received allocations for state delegates. And because there was a low voter turnout for the governor's race last year, we don't have as many delegate allocations for these counties. I'm lucky because Jeffco is third or fourth in terms of the largest counties. So I have more allocations than most counties. Denver, on the other hand, they cannot pick their delegates through the caucus system. They have to wait till their county assembly, and then they have to vote on their delegates through their assembly because they cannot give each precinct one delegate allocation. So that happens to a lot of the smaller counties, is that they pick and choose their delegates and alternates for the higher assemblies at their county assembly. Yes?
Do you happen to know if Arapahoe gets a state delegate for each precinct?
A state delegate for each precinct. Yes. Arapahoe, Arapahoe has enough that they get one delegate for each precinct, yes. I think the number is there. Yeah. And Jeffco's the same way. But we have bonus members too, bonus delegates.
I just wondered, how do you pick the people that are going to the national convention? You said you do that at the state.
So you have to apply for it online. The requirement also is that in order to be eligible to do that, you must go to the county assembly, and then you must attend either the congressional assembly or the state assembly. And in order to go to the congressional assembly or the state assembly, you must be a delegate at the county assembly. So I'm just saying, go to your county assembly. And it's okay to be an alternate. In fact, I like to be alternates. And it's very important, no matter if you're a delegate or an alternate, you must go. But the alternates are there in case the delegates don't show up. And so we do what's calling elevate them to the delegate status to where they can vote. But as an alternate, it's still interesting. You can still stay there the entire day and be part of the process. But a lot of times, those alternates will be elevated. And when it comes to the state, almost all of the alternates are elevated for one reason or another, because people don't show up.
You're from another county, but could you address the issue that some voters may ask about regarding pay to play? Some instructions we've been given is advise people to bring a checkbook or cash or whatever. But we have some others who make a good point that it does not cost money to attend caucus.
Right.
At caucus, you may be spending the money for the badge fees as a delegate to future things.
Right.
But it does not cost anything to go to
Right.
caucus.
Yeah, caucus is free. It's put on by the county. Every county is that way.
But they ask for contributions.
Absolutely. Then take $10 and put it in the bucket. Because it does cost money for us to put on caucus. It's gonna cost me about $5,000 out of Jeffco's budget to put on caucus. So it is costly, especially for those little counties. I can absorb it, but others can't. Is there any other questions? No? Well, thank you for letting me be here. I appreciate it. It's nice seeing some faces and
Nancy,
seeing
thank
some
you very
names.